Hey, welcome back. It's been a year since I installed two EG4 6000 XP inverters as part of my DIY home solar system, and I wanted to share a full update on how they performed. I'll also touch on whether the EG4's 12,000 XP might be a better choice because I've seriously considered switching to it myself. Back in April 2024, I bought the dual 6000 XP kit from Signature Solar. It came with two sets of battery cables, and I mounted both the inverters on this cement backing board in our shop. And then I combined their output into a 125 amp subpanel. So each are on a 50 amp breaker with a 100 amp main. Since my electrical service is all the way inside the house, I ran 100 amp wiring up through the attic to connect to the service panel. I installed an interlock and a 70 amp breaker in the service panel, and I chose not to run a line tap to the inverters. Instead, the interlock lets me manually switch between grid and solar. Not the perfect setup, but it's worked well so far. Initially, I only ran one inverter to test how well the 6000 XP would perform. For our 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,950 square foot house with an additional 1,000 square foot shop, one inverter could power everything, but just not all at once. High wattage, 120 volt appliances like microwaves, coffee makers, air fryers, and hair dryers would sometimes trip the inverter. This was likely due to one phase pulling more than 3,000 watts for over 15 seconds. Here's the key thing about the EG4 6000 XP. Think of it as two 120 volt, 12.5 amp inverters, each running on one side of a split phase panel. It's crucial to balance your 120 volt loads across both sides of the panel to avoid overloading one leg during peak use. For a small cabin, mobile home, RV, this usually isn't an issue unless you're running other 240 volt appliances like an AC unit, stove, or heater, and that's pulling more than 7 or 8 amps. If that's the case, using a heavy 120 volt load at the same time could trip the 6000 XP inverter. Once I turned on the second inverter, I never had another overload issue, even when running all of our heavy appliances and air conditioning. Each 6000 XP has two MPPT inputs, supporting up to 4,000 watts of PV power each. They allow a max voltage of 480 volts, and the inverter can accept up to 10,000 watts if you want to over panel. It'll only use 8,000 of that though, but always run your cold temperature calculations before doing that. So far, I've only connected one 4,850 watt PV string to each inverter. That means I haven't even maxed out my solar limit yet. Now remember that each MPPT is limited to 17 amps each. I'm running the two 6000 XP inverters with 6 LifePower 4 server rack batteries. That's 30.7 kilowatt hours. On a sunny day, it takes about 3 to 4 hours to charge from 60% to 100%. And that's roughly 12.5 kilowatt hours. So once I hook up a second string of panels to each of the inverters, I expect that charge time to be cut in half, so maybe a couple hours. Shortly after I bought the two 6000 XPs, EG4 released the 12,000 XP. Of course, it seems like I always buy right before the new model comes out. Anyway, a lot of folks have asked me which is better, the 12,000 XP or two 6,000 XPs. After comparing them closely, I've come to the conclusion it depends. The 12,000 XP has a lot going for it. It's cheaper, it accepts more PV input, uses less standby power, it takes less space, and it eliminates the need for additional breakers or subpanel to combine the two inverters. In most cases, the 12,000 XP is the better and more efficient choice. But there's one situation where I think two 6000 XPs still wins. Hey, if you're completely off-grid with no connection to the utility grid and only a generator as your backup, having two 6000 XPs is probably the safer investment. That's because if one inverter fails, you can send it in to have it serviced and still continue to run your system on the other inverter. Sure, you'll have to manage your power limits a little bit, but it'll keep your home running until the repair is done. Now, if you're off-grid and you're relying on a single 12,000 XP and it fails, you're stuck running everything off a generator, and that could last for a few weeks while the inverter gets repaired or replaced. The fuel cost alone could easily cancel out any savings from choosing the 12,000 XP over the dual 6,000 XPs. So that's a situation I can see two 6,000 XPs will be superior to a 12,000 XP. Hey, if your power needs are more moderate and you're not pushing 3,000 watts on a single 120 volt leg, the EG4 6000 XP is one of the best and most reliable inverters under $2,000 you can find. If you need more power for an off-grid system, then go straight to the 12,000 XP. It'll save time, space, and money compared to the dual 6000 XP setup I have. If you want the ability to sell power back to the grid, you don't want to use an off-grid inverter. So check out EG4's hybrid inverters like the 12 kPV and the 18 kPV. They're priced a little bit higher, but they offer a lot more features and interconnect net metering flexibility. Hey, no matter which option you go with, use my discount code and save another 50 bucks. So what do you think? Which inverter setup makes more sense to you? Got any questions? Drop a comment. I'd love to help. Hey, I'm Michael, and here at 2 Steps from Off-Grid, our mission is to educate and inspire you to build resilient DIY systems that support your independent lifestyle. We're almost fully off-grid, having reduced our grid usage by 85% over the past 2 years using solar. And we want to help you do the same. Hey, if this kind of content resonates with you, please hit that subscribe button down below. Give us a thumbs up and stay tuned because we've got more great content coming your way. Thank you for watching.